The professor asked me to share info that I did not want to share. ETA. A genogram is like a family tree, but with extra symbols, e.g., a beer bottle for my alcoholic father. And lines connecting each person. The type of line dictates the type of relationship: close, smothering, distant, estranged, abusive, etc. I studied social work in school. I found myself doing 3 genograms over the course of my schooling, one for Intro to Social Work, one for Sociology of Mental Health, and then another in my last year. I have some not fun family history and trauma, and so these assignments were never my favorite, but my teachers for the first 2 didn't pressure me to disclose only what I wanted and be vague. One even said I could do a fictional family. LOL. The last one did not. See, one thing we learned was that bringing up a client's trauma outside of a therapeutic environment can be harmful. We were BSWs, which are not qualified therapists. During intakes and assessments, we learned to tell clients that they don't have to give more details than they wanted to. There's a whole host of reasons behind this, but I'll spare you all the lecture. I brought this up in class after this teacher assigned an extensive genogram with an accompanying 5-page essay on what we learned about ourselves. A third of the class expressed the same concerns. His reasoning was, you might be doing this with your clients and you shouldn't ask them to do anything you wouldn't yourself. Not unless I get a graduate degree and become a therapist or psychologist. The teacher also didn't give us an answer when asked if resources for therapy would be provided if this brought up any student's past trauma that they needed to talk about. Oh, and of course, he added, this will only be shared with me and is 100% confidential, unless you choose to share. Literally not any of our concerns, but I don't want to share any of my deeply personal business with this man. The assignment did not bother me as much as the hypocrisy of it all. I said, between class assignments and therapy, this will be my 5th one. Could I turn one of those in and be given an alternate assignment? He wouldn't budge. He said I didn't need to disclose anything I didn't want to, but followed it up with, but I expect you to take this assignment seriously. And when I turned in a rough draft with about as much as I was willing to disclose, he said it wasn't detailed enough. All right, Ducker. It's show time. I have a lot of family trauma that is not mine to disclose, and I rarely ever disclose it, at least not with anyone who would ever meet the folks involved. My own is embarrassing enough, but definitely not as bad as some. But I put all that shit down on there and wrote about it. Then, the following week, the teacher asked if any students would like to share their genogram, if they're comfortable. My hand shot up. I will spare you the details, but I basically gave the class a content notice to allow anyone to leave who may be triggered, a common thing in social work school, and then I just shared all of it. All of the relationships and why they were ducked up and why I hate my dad and my sister resents my mom and all that. Cheery smile on my face the whole time. The teacher uncomfortably thanked me for my bravery. A few students shifted in their seats, feeling uneasy. Others smiled. Then my friend volunteered to share. She didn't like the assignment either, but she's not one to argue with teachers. Her presentation trumped mine. Girl had a real messed up family, and by the end, she was red in the face and everyone was super uncomfortable. Next person to volunteer to share was this girl who was in foster care. I'm not even sure if her sharing was malicious compliance, but hers was the most uncomfortable to hear. She started to cry at the end. Another student who also grew up in foster care started to tear up. The teacher cut us off after that. Another teacher overheard, and the following week, we had some serious discussions in class. I and the other students who shared were referred to the school's mental health center. LOL. Another teacher I had a good relationship with checked in with me, and I told her what happened. I can't tell for certain what went on, but it created a stink in their department. It's been several years since I graduated, but I heard there is now an alternative assignment for the genogram. So, lesson is, don't tell social work students to do something that you tell them to never do to their clients, and you don't get into social work unless you are traumatized as Duck.
Now to the comments. OP replied. The thing is, it's a university required part of the curriculum. All other teachers teaching that class also required it, but I'm sure other teachers would have been more fair to me and the multiple students who found it problematic and triggering.
From what I can tell, the point is to be able to draw an accurate genogram. Wouldn't you be able to demonstrate your ability equally as well if you did one of Bart Simpson's family?
You may have clients that will disclose traumatic events to you, but as a therapist it is unethical, inappropriate for you to disclose any of your personal history to a client. I have shit from my past I can't even talk to my counselor about, it's just too traumatic to share. I've dealt with it, put it behind me, I'm not sharing that shit with anyone. The person responsible is dead, I let the dead bury the dead, let it go.
OP replied. He was basically saying clients will need to disclose this stuff to me, so I need to know how it feels to be on their side. There is a concept called helpful sharing, which is focused on the client and disclosing something helpful to them, while also building rapport. E.g., I've struggled with ADHD, and there's a few things that I've found helped me stay on task and organized. Would you like me to share those things with you? But if your sharing does not serve the client or only serves to show them you understand, it's never appropriate. Many agencies have a policy against personal disclosure altogether, as well, but some practice helpful sharing. I've been a client at one, and I actually found it makes me feel more comfortable.
Clients will start sharing personal stuff when they know they can trust you. Whenever I do an assessment with a client, he or she is always free to just not answer my question. In time they will eventually share a lot of their life with you, and Lord, did I hear stuff I never even wanted to hear. OP, I love your malicious compliance. I do that, too. I often fully disclose my mental disorders, especially when people try to tell me mental health is a matter of will. I will make anyone who asks for it uncomfortable by recounting the million ways I intended to kill myself as a teenager, or by just talking about panic attacks or the amount of meds I take daily just to be able to function. Usually they don't ever try the matter of will thing around me again. I also do this in academic assignments if they require TMI, because if you want all the shit, please, here, have it, you're welcome. Oh wow, had the exact same thing happen in my bachelor's of psychology. We also had to take a class that was basically this is how it feels to be in your client's shoes. A mandatory therapy class with ridiculous attendance restrictions, can't be late or miss a day ever, including ducking funerals etc., or you fail the class. Fail the class and you can't write your ducking thesis for a whole ass year. This wasn't as public as yours, only groups of 8, but what was the little annoying thing again? Oh right, I wasn't going to be a clinical psychologist. I was never going to have ducking clients. This was our bachelor's, after which we could pick out of 8 masters, of which only 2 were the ducking clinical tract. I'm a ducking user experience researcher now. I highly doubt any of my participants will offer their ducking trauma to me when I'm discussing what their experiences are with ducking refrigerators or some shit. I'm still a little pissed about it, in case you can't tell. The literal third question we were asked in that ducking class was, how is the relationship with your parents? I didn't do what you did though. I raised ducking hell the entire time I was there and outright refused to participate in any of the assignments that were related to bettering oneself. I came this close to suing the university, and now 6 years later I still wish I had actually gotten a lawyer. Absolutely ridiculous. Edit. Sorry, got a little ranty there, lol. I love how you handled this. For the record, duck educators that think they have the ducking right to pry like this.
OP replied. It was a rant indeed, but an appreciated one. I highly doubt any of my participants will offer their ducking trauma to me when I'm discussing what their experiences are with ducking refrigerators or some shit. That was gold.
That teacher fails at everything. As a teacher. As a person. Just know. I'm sorry you had to deal with his crap. Question for us non-social workers, what's a genogram?
OP replied. It is like a family tree, but with extra symbols, e.g., a beer bottle for my alcoholic father, and lines connecting each person. The type of line dictates the type of relationship: close, smothering, distant, estranged, abusive, etc.
You should add that to the post, it's kinda important to understand the rest of it. OP replied. As another commenter said, it can also contribute to burnout, cause you to make your work personal and about you instead of the client. For example, I cannot work with older folks in residential care facilities, because one of my family members was neglected and died in one. Even minor things in my life I find affecting my work on occasion.